we studied the Great Compromise, we're going to move into the second significant debate during the Constitutional Convention. And it's related to the Great Compromise because it talks about representation or votes, but it's specifically focused on the enslaved population. So, just like we did with the Great Compromise, we're going to do the same thing with this debate, and we're going to look at the two perspectives or two views, the two significant ones that are opposing in this discussion. So the first one is the enslaved should not be counted as people for representation if you are not giving them rights. And if you do want to count them, then that same number should count for taxes. So in summary, you shouldn't count them. I mean, they don't even have rights. And if you're gonna count them, then that also should count for taxes. We have to make a connection back to the House of Representatives. That lower house is dependent on population. So if they count the enslaved people, that's going to get those states a lot more votes, right? And remember, votes mean power. So that's really important to understand here. And you can guess from the underlying phrases here that this is the view or perspective of the free states, which are for the most part in the North. Okay, they are saying the enslaved should not count because they are free states, right? They don't have very many enslaved. And if you're going to count them, then you should pay taxes on them. Then we have a second view or perspective. The enslaved live in our states, so they should be counted to calculate the number of votes we get, although this should not apply to taxes. And you can infer from phrases here that this is the perspective of the slave states, which are predominantly in the South. So we have the free states arguing against the slave states about if we should count enslaved people or not. Okay, so let's take a look at these details against the map just to put things into perspective. The blue represents free states. The lighter blue are just free territories. They're not organized into states yet. But these bright blue over here are the free states, and the red are the slave states. So the slave states look really significant. They really pop out of the map because they have so much land, right? They're huge states. However, one important detail for you to keep in mind is that population is actually significantly higher in the free states. So Pennsylvania, Massachusetts during this time, this is Maine up here, New Hampshire, Connecticut, they're all very populated areas, especially because of those ports. So those are important things to keep in mind. So if the enslaved are never counted, the North would always have more votes because they have more people that reside in those states. And this is why this is becoming a really hot topic during the Constitutional Convention. Another detail I wanted to make explicit, just to make sure you're making that connection, is that the free states said if you're going to count the enslaved, that's fine. But that means you should pay taxes on them, right? It says wanted enslaved people to count for taxes. So if you're going to count them for votes, you better also count them for taxes. And the slave states, you guessed it, are saying, no, we just want to count them for representation. Okay? So I just want to make sure that you're making those connections. So the North perspective is this means the South would have to put up more money, making the North happy. And then the second view, this means the South would get more votes if you counted the enslaved, making the North unhappy.